Welcome to Bogota, Colombia. We're here chasing after the most dangerous drug in the world, burundanga. Burundanga is the source of scopolamine, which is basically like the worst roofie you can ever imagine, times a million. You're at the whim of suggestions like, hey, take me to your ATM. Hey, come with me to the hotel room, while you're completely conscious and articulate.
Burundanga, which means devil's breath, the craziest roofies you'll ever have. Pretty scary descriptions for a drug used to treat motion sickness. But what exactly is this compound scopolamine, and why is it so scary and deadly? In this presentation, we will explore the history, common medical uses, pharmacodynamics, or the compound's effects on the body, and some research related to scopolamine, as well as how society perceives this drug. Scopolamine, or L-hyoscine, is predominantly found in the henbane plant, as well as in the belladonna plant. Belladonna actually means beautiful woman in Italian, because women in Renaissance Italy would take it to enlarge their pupils to make themselves seem more appealing. Both plants are members of the nightshade family, which you may recognize from Game of Thrones or Romeo and Juliet as being fairly poisonous plants. The henbane plant has had a variety of uses in history, both therapeutic and recreational. Most of the effects of the plant are derived from the alkaloids, namely scopolamine and hyoscamine, found within them. The plant was used by the early German, Egyptian, and Celtic people to enhance their alcoholic drinks. The plant is also thought to have been important for the rituals of the Oracle of Delphi in ancient Greece, who would inhale the smoke of the burnt henbane plant and proclaim her prophecies. In addition to its many ritualistic and recreational uses, the plant has been used as a therapeutic throughout history through its role as an antispasmodic and an analgesic. Scopolamine itself has had a wide variety of uses since its chemical isolation in the late 19th century by Ernest Schmidt. Physicians in the early 20th century used the drug in combination with morphine to induce something called twilight sleep, which was a feeling of analgesia and amnesia felt by women when they were giving birth. Later, during the Cold War, it was tested as a potential truth serum by the CIA, but was found to be ineffective due to its hallucinogenic properties. The current conventional use of scopolamine differs drastically from its usage in the past. In its most common form, it is worn behind the ear as a transdermal patch for prophylactic protection from motion sickness. This patch can deliver 1 milligram of scopolamine over a 3-day period for long-lasting protection. It is additionally used to alleviate postoperative nausea through intravenous injection, as well as nausea that accompanies certain types of chemotherapy. It is marketed under the brand name Transderm Scope or Scopoderm, among a number of other names. So, how does the drug work exactly? Scopolamine works by interacting with the muscarinic acetylcholine receptor in various regions of the body. This receptor appears primarily on the autonomic effector cells innervated by the postganglionic parasympathetic nerves, but can also be found in high densities in the cortex, hippocampus, and thalamus. If you recall, the autonomic nervous system is split up into the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. The sympathetic system uses epinephrine, norepinephrine, and acetylcholine acting through the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. The collective action produced by the activation of this system is known as the fight or flight response. The parasympathetic system, on the other hand, primarily uses acetylcholine acting through the muscarinic receptors. The collective action produced by the activation of this system can be thought of as rest and digest, with decreased heart rate and increased blood flow to the digestive system. While nicotinic receptors are ligand-gated ion channels, muscarinic receptors are actually G-protein coupled receptors that are typically activated by the agonist acetylcholine. 5 different subtypes of the receptor exist, designated M1 through M5. Stimulation of M1, 3, and 5 activates the GQ-PLC pathway, which causes the release of intracellular calcium, followed by a number of calcium-mediated intracellular effects. Stimulation of M2 and M4 causes the inhibition of adenylyl cyclase. Scopolamine acts as an antagonist on muscarinic acetylcholine receptors, which means it blocks the binding of acetylcholine onto these receptors. Therefore, it is classified as an anticholinergic. The effects of scopolamine are widespread and numerous. It causes pupil dilation, loss of accommodation of the pupils to light, decreased GI motility, hence its use as an antispasmodic in the GI tract, increased heart rate, and dryness of mouth, caused by decreased saliva secretion, although the magnitude of these effects differs at different doses of scopolamine. Its action in preventing motion sickness is thought to come from the blocking of the cholinergic communication between the inner ear and the vomiting centers of the brain, although the mechanisms of this are not completely known. While there are a number of beneficial therapeutic uses for scopolamine, the drug also has some adverse effects, which has made it interesting for use in research. The drug, for example, has amnesic properties, which have made it important for modeling memory loss in mice models of Alzheimer's. It is thought that the cholinergic system plays an important role in the storage and retrieval of information during learning. With age-related memory loss, like what occurs with Alzheimer's disease, there seems to be a loss of cholinergic input into the brain. Therefore, scientists believe that muscarinic receptors might not be working correctly in the patients with Alzheimer's. Because of this cholinergic hypothesis of memory loss, scopolamine has been used commonly as a pharmacological model substance for Alzheimer's disease, since it blocks muscarinic receptors. Cases of addiction to transdermal scopolamine patches have been noted in the past, and there are scientific articles on transdermal scopolamine addiction. But what is occurring in the brain to make this happen? Research has shown that when scopolamine is infused into certain areas of the brain, it can in fact alter dopaminergic firing. In a study done by Di Giovanni et al., it was found that systemic injection of scopolamine significantly increased the number of active dopamine neurons in the substantia nigra. When locally infusing it into the pedunculopontine tegmental nucleus, or PPT, the same effect was observed, whereas locally infusing a cholinergic agonist decreases firing. Therefore, scopolamine may be acting to increase the number of active dopaminergic cells by disinhibiting neurons in the PPT, which excite dopaminergic neurons when activated. But while this suggests a link between scopolamine and dopaminergic firing increase in this area, other studies have shown that when muscarinic blockers are injected near dopaminergic neurons, the rewarding effects of hypothalamic or dorsal tegmental rewarding brain stimulation is blocked in rats, suggesting that scopolamine may have the opposite effect in rats. Thus, the mechanisms behind scopolamine addiction still remain fairly unclear and debated. In addition to amnesia, at higher doses, scopolamine can also cause dizziness, drowsiness, confusion, in addition to hallucinations and delirium. Because of these adverse effects, scopolamine has become a popular criminal drug. The dangers of the drug have not escaped the attention of the U.S. government, who in 2012 issued a travel advisory about scopolamine and its potential to cause harm to visitors in Colombia.
A verlo desde el punto de vista médico, esa sería la sustancia perfecta para los hechos delictivos, porque la víctima no va a recordar nada, por lo tanto no denuncia, porque cuando ellos tratan de recordar la persona que se la dio, no fija la memoria, y cuando ya se despertaba y se daba cuenta que había sido robado, él no se acordaba de que él mismo había colaborado. Entonces esa era la propiedad que se piensa se explota de sustancias como estas que tienen la posibilidad de, entre comillas, hipnotizar al paciente.
In Colombia, abusing the drug for criminal purposes remains a huge issue. There, about 50,000 incidences involving scopolamine are said to occur annually, and, as was shown in the video from Vice, the drug has become feared by the government and people alike in Colombia. And that's scopolamine. It is a drug with a rich history and a wide variety of uses, both good and bad. The world's deadliest drug is also a motion sickness medication. It can be very beneficial to cancer patients on one hand, while also being beneficial to criminals on the other hand. One thing is for sure though, scopolamine is a very fascinating drug.